On May 22, Street 2011, a large tornado hit the town of Joplin. The tornado had a max width of 1 mile and claimed a total of 158 lives and injured 1,150, as is still the costliest tornado ever. With most of the tornado community talking about the recent Piedmont tornado, it would go largely unknown by most people that late in the day on May 21, a low-pressure system was created with dew points in the low 60s. That would cause the Storm Prediction Center to issue a moderate risk for southwest Wisconsin, northern Illinois, most of Missouri, eastern Iowa, and northeast Oklahoma, and a 15% tornado risk around the same area. But probably the most concerning was the hail and strong wind demographics that both had a high risk. A trough quickly strengthened in the morning hours as it was becoming increasingly more clear that there was probably about to be a large tornado outbreak. Nearing noon, the SPC decided to issue a public severe weather outlook that said that severe weather, tornadoes, damaging hail, and strong winds were extremely likely. At 1:30 p.m., a tornado watch was issued for the Joplin area as thunderstorms that would turn into supercells began to quickly intensify, and this storm was going to hit Joplin while everyone would be driving back from graduation day. At 5:17 p.m., a tornado warning was issued, which was 17 minutes before an EF0 tornado touched down and began doing light tree damage southwest of Joplin as the tornado almost immediately became a multi-vortex. It rode 32nd Street before hitting multiple businesses at EF3 strength. It continued as an EF3, hitting multiple subdivisions outside of Joplin, going through Iron Gates Road, where homes were destroyed and cars were thrown off the road into buildings. It intensified to an EF4 wedge tornado and caused extensive damage to homes, and some well-built houses were completely slabbed. It then strengthened more to the highest rating for a tornado, an EF5, and it was completely rain-wrapped, so you couldn't even see the tornado as it did devastating damage to a Walmart. Houses would completely disintegrate, large buildings would see extensive damage, and medical buildings would collapse. Cars would be thrown like toys and wrapped around trees or thrown thousands of feet. Multiple 300-plus pound parking spots that were anchored down with a rebar were picked up and thrown around 300 feet, which is extraordinary EF5 damage. The St. John's Regional Medical Center was then devastated after the EF5-rated tornado blew out windows, destroyed the roof, and most of its interior was wrecked, which would lead to its demolition, and its helicopter was picked up and thrown, and other vehicles such as cars and semi-trucks were left unrecognizable as one semi-truck was wrapped around a debarked tree around 400 feet away from the hospital. Some items inside the hospital, such as X-rays and medical documents, were thrown several thousand feet as they were found in neighboring counties. The tornado continued to devastate the area as windrowing was documented, which only happens in terrible tornadoes. It completely flattened every house and business on 26th Street. Some of them were slabbed as extreme tree debarking was reported. It barely missed downtown, destroying everything in its path as even people's concrete porches were stripped off and thrown hundreds of feet. Most vehicles were chucked hundreds of thousands of feet as some people would never end up finding their vehicles. The St. Mary's Catholic Church was destroyed and the Joplin High School was demolished as fencing was found stuck inside of the ground in a field, and the buses were thrown hundreds of feet as thankfully graduation happened before the tornado hit, but multiple people were killed while driving home. The Greenbrier nursing home was almost completely destroyed, having 21 fatalities in the building alone. It then crossed over Connecticut Avenue at EF5 intensity, hitting a bank as it was completely swept away except for its concrete vault. A 2x4 piece of wood, most likely from a house, was thrown with so much force that it speared a curb that was made of concrete. The EF5 extraordinary rain-wrapped tornado hit a Pizza Hut, forcing employees to take cover in a walk-in freezer. Although most of the people inside of the building survived, one employee passed away as he tried to use a bungee cord to lock the door to the walk-in freezer, but he was sucked out by the tornado. It then weakened to an EF4 and then flattened both a Walmart supercenter and a Home Depot as its roof ended up being found inside of a field outside of Joplin. The tornado intensified to an EF5 and started ripping out concrete from the ground, which is horrific damage. The Academy Sports in Joplin had devastating damage, including a chair being thrown into an interior wall in the building. Then an apartment complex was almost completely flattened and a Pepsi manufacturing plant had significant damage. Extreme ground scouring was reported and a gas station was swept away. The tornado began to weaken and fluctuate from EF3 and EF4 strength, but it did hit a middle school in Joplin at EF4 intensity. It then weakened even more to EF3 and EF2 strength while crossing multiple highways and blowing cars off the road. The now EF1 tornado did light damage to a house before dissipating west of Park, Missouri. The tornado was rated a high-end EF4, but it was then upgraded to an EF5 as the tornado completely overshadowed the stronger El Reno Piedmont EF5. But the Joplin tornado was definitely the worst of the year 2011 as it killed 158 people, making it the worst tornado in the United States since the 1947 Woodward F5 that had 181 fatalities. The tornado also caused nearly $3 billion in damages, but the tragedy wasn't over because 6 other people died indirectly. One was a police officer who was struck by lightning shortly after the tornado passed, and 5 other people died because of the lack of housing that created an extremely rare fungal infection that had some terrible side effects. Would have 5 fatalities from the 12 people who were reported to have the infection. A state of emergency was then issued for the Joplin area as the government would send first responders to find some missing people. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe so I can hit 500 subscribers, and thank you for watching.